First, let's get one thing straight. Armor is good. And I mean really good. I feel like I need to say this because recently I've been seeing all over the place that people want to either buff armor or buff armor in general. There are a couple reasons I think people are making these posts, but they all seem to stem from people either just making stuff up, having played very little with the deck, or not having played it at all and just repeating things they've heard from the first group. Believe it or not, I've actually seen people trying to make this claim. Yeah, no, this is false. People always seem to think that suit stuff is better since you get one shot and armor can barely even get two. What they don't realize is how good this two shot is. You have a very large margin for error with two shots rather than one. Going faster isn't always better, and if it was, then Suit Frenzy Yakuza would be the best build in the game. That said, armor is slower than suit, but it's not slow. Speed doesn't help much when you're sitting in cover, and rushing is not a good thing either. If anything, being slower forces you to be more careful and think about what you're doing, which is better than being faster. And unless you're really stretching the limit, you have enough speed to get between cover safely. Skill issue, I guess. So yeah, armor doesn't need any buffs, and if you need any further proof, these builds are here for you. Armor is about being big and strong, and the deck shows it. You get additional armor and faster armor recovery for you and your team. However, the interesting perk of armor is the 2-second God mode. This perk is shared with Anarchist, and if you ever play Anarchist, you know how strong that 2 seconds can be. Now imagine that, but on armor, which regens 2 shots every time. It's for this reason that armor is the most consistent deck in the game. With these 2 shots, you can survive most enemy interactions in the game. The 2-second God mode is just a bonus that pushes the deck from good to great. Another thing worth talking about is drama. Drama is a mechanic in this game that is not too well known. Drama has to do with comp and player interactions. Getting tased, going down, and getting shot all increase this drama. The most important one here is getting shot. More damage means more drama, less damage means less drama. Since armor has a lot of armor that regens quickly, you can take a lot of damage from cops without taking any health damage. So what does this drama increase do for you? Well, if drama is high, then the fade of the assault is extended. This means you can have very few enemies on the map, but the assault just doesn't seem to end. This lets you do all sorts of things, like objectives, moving around the map, and generally frolicking around. Armor is the best deck for drama abuse, and you will feel its effects in the game. Also, if you ever go down, just use the excuse that you're drama abusing, so you're welcome. Now, it's worth starting the builds. When someone thinks Enforcer, this is what they picture. Big armor, ammo bags, and strapped with a minigun. And although this is more of a build that leans into a stereotype, it's extremely effective. You can switch out the minigun for an LMG and the build will be better. And the microgun is also better than the Vulcan, but fuck you. I do what I want. Oddly enough, the minigun with Berserker and body expertise is too ammo efficient to make very good use of Bulletstorm here, but armor doesn't go down that often, so it's not like medic bags are needed. I also want to put your attention on Frenzy here. It serves 2 purposes. The first is for damage reduction, as you actually get a new breakpoint. With this resistance, you can take a light, heavy Grace and still have your armor up. This lets you take another shot and survive potentially game BS that you otherwise wouldn't. The second purpose is for Berserker. If your armor is shot down, you can shoot the Compact 40 straight down and get 100% Berserker. But remember, like I said in my Anarchist video, explosions in this game aren't always consistent. If you aren't the host, you won't get this 100%. On top of that, some surfaces are raised, which will kill you when you're getting a Berserker this high. And if you ever need to rezerk, kill your convert, use a doctor bag, and do the process again. Just make sure you watch your surroundings. And if you remember in my anarchist video, I went over Berserker in more detail, as well as how to prevent hacker and tag team from healing you to take away your perfect zerk. So check out that video if you haven't seen it. Sniper rifle builds are pretty straightforward, so I wanted to run something a bit more unique here. The Repeater. This is technically the best 255 damage sniper rifle in the game, if you can use the sights, that is. For maps with long ranges, like Heat Street, for example, you might want to swap out to a different rifle that has a scope. Other than that, the Repeater will destroy just about everything in sight except dozers, which is where the secondary comes in. Normally people will just use an SMG here, but that's generic and boring. A pistol here does just as well, and sometimes even better. With the pistol skills I took, this beats the Krinkov in output. But this is just my build. Set up yours with weapons you prefer using. Remember back when I mentioned that frenzy breakpoint? Well, the 10% reduction also happens from quick fix here, so using a first aid kit will give you this protection for 2 minutes. Now this doesn't mean you should just use a first aid kit every 2 minutes. Place them for uppers and use them to heal back from health shots. Although you could just ignore this and go for doctor bags if you really wanted. A unique thing about armor is that with Frenzy Aced and Iron Man Basic, the armor boost lets the CTV take 2 armor shots, just like the ICTV. But it's worth noting that you're spending more points for the same result, so you need to make use of it. CTV armor should only ever be used with low blow setups, as to maximize the benefits of the concealment you get. While being kinda cringe, the Akimbo Grims are extremely concealable, and paired with a Bronco, which is also extremely concealable, you can make use of low blow. You could switch this out for an Yzma if you really wanted to, but the Akimbo Grims with Berserker challenge the Goliaths for the top spot, so, might as well. Remember those damage range multiplier things? They nerfed shotguns, right? Well, this build shows just how little of a difference those multipliers actually made, and I still have no idea why Overkill wanted to add those in. Well, if anything, this just means you'll occasionally need to switch to the Bronco to hit snipers. Incredible rebalance. Thanks, Overkill. Out of all the builds that exist, this is one of them. I'm gonna say it outright. This breakpoint is very impractical. Underdog is a finicky skill, and relying on it is a mistake. Seeing as this build relies on it, well, you can figure it out. But if you do want to see this breakpoint in action, get a close quarters map with high spawn rates. No Mercy, Shacklethorn Auction, Border Crystals, White House, you get the picture. Now, unlike the sniper build, in which I don't recommend just using facts to get the breakpoint, this one I do. For this breakpoint to work, you need Underdog to cooperate while Quick Fix is active, and making sure it happens is kind of a chore. But when it does line up, it's pretty satisfying. You'll notice that if you're using a first aid kit every 2 minutes to get the breakpoint, you won't be getting a practical berserker basically ever. It's fine. The Akimbo Mark X delivers good damage with just frenzy at the cost of being a bit of an ammo drain. Luckily, there's another Mark X in this build to help keep ammo up. As goofy as it looks, this triple Mark X combo works pretty well as long as you aren't shooting pointlessly into the sky. The strength of armor is in its two-shot setup. Everyone knows that. But what if you wanted to forget that and just go light? Well, you can, and this build exists for it. Considering the armor boost you get, the ballistic vest reaches 81 armor, which is enough to protect you from lights and shields. It's a shame that the lightweight ballistic vest ends up with exactly 67.5 armor, which is exactly how much damage those lights do. Technically, you can swap out the ballistic vest for the light ballistic vest and work with the quick fix to resist, but it's simpler to just use the BV. It's also a bit more unique, so that's a plus. Speaking of unique, the Cavity. This is a strange gun that people basically only use for stealth. However, since the DMR buff, this gun gets a chance at glory again. And so I shall force it into this unorthodox build where it will exist for the rest of time. Use the Claire to activate Overkill Ace and let your Cavity start hitting heads. You don't need to hit every shot to stay ammo positive, but try not to miss that much. Needless to say, I'm not very good with this build due to that reason. However, in the hands of someone who can aim, I can see this build going very far with the fast armor regen, the 2-second God mode, and high single target damage output. If you're wondering why the Cavity has a silencer but no actual silencer skills in the build, it's to mess with targeting. Seeing as you're squishier, it's best to not attract enemy attention. Well, there's 5 builds for armor, the perk deck that apparently needs buffs. If you see another post like that, make sure to call them out on their ignorance, as armor does not need any buffs whatsoever. Most people simply can't play slowly, and armor really rewards a slow and patient playstyle. I mean, look at any difficult solo with armor. It's long, calculated, and precise. On a side note, keep in mind that armor mains have the biggest dicks of any other perk deck. Don't ask how I know, it's just the fact that they're the biggest chads. Seeing as this perk deck was chosen in a poll a while ago, I'm likely going to put up another poll with 3 choices there to see what people would like to see next, but I do also have my own preference in mind, so maybe I'll just do that one.